Urban Meyer to coach the Dallas Cowboys. Here's the top 4 reasons it's a Jerry Jones fit. Number 1, Urban Meyer has expressed a strong interest in the job. This was really weird at the time. It seemed really random when he went on Colin Cowherd in October and was asked a question about Lincoln Riley coaching the Cowboys, and he answered it by saying, "Well, what about me?" It seemed really random, and it seemed really weird, and it seemed really rude. After all, who does that to a colleague when, and Jason Garrett, who's already got the job? And yet Urban Meyer did it anyway, which I think is instrumental, not only in how, in telling us that maybe this wasn't as random as we first thought it was, and second of all, that Urban Meyer, when it comes to etiquette, doesn't give 2 Fs. We'll get to that in a minute. The quote from Meyer that day: "That's the one job. That's the Yankees, Cowboys, great city, that's the one. They got Dak, they got Zeke, loaded team. That's the one job in professional football that you got to say, I got to go do that." That's Urban Meyer applying for that job. Now, he was also, in the Colin Cowherd interview, asked if he'd been contacted the Cowboys, and he said no. And I'm not sure that's true. Item number 2, his winning at every level credential transfers, I think. Head coach at Utah, 22-2. Record of 22-2 at Utah. No offense, Utah. Goes on to Florida, wins 2 national titles. Goes to Ohio State, wins another one. At Ohio State, they are still contending for national titles based on the program and some of the talent that was brought there by Urban Meyer. And there's no question that running an NFL program is different than running a college program. There's no guarantee that it works. But there's no guarantee that anything works short of hiring, as we've detailed here before. You hire Belichick, I think that's a pretty good guarantee. You hire Sean Payton, that's pretty close. This is as close as you come after that in terms of a credentialed guy who wins everywhere he goes, who also brings these 3 other things that I think do translate. 1, he has a fearsome aura. People respect him. They even fear him, Urban Meyer. 2, he has a CEO mindset. Now, he also, I think at Ohio State, also coached special teams, which is not unlike what Belichick does in New England, by the way. But he's a CEO of football. And 3, he clearly knows brilliant talent. Those 3 things translate. Point number 3, his years away from the game actually frees him in so many ways. Frees his staff building and then frees something else that's important, which I'll get to in a moment. He'd been out of the game for 2 years. Health reasons, of course, why he left the Buckeyes. But in addition to knowing the talents of all of today's young NFL prospects and all the young guys in the NFL, he's respected as a relationship builder with college coaches and pro coaches. Consider the obvious thread that runs from Meyer to Dallas already. Cowboys always get a gold-plated invitation to go scout Ohio State kids. It wasn't long ago, this might have been Zeke's year, maybe, when Garrett brought his entire staff to Ohio State Pro Day. Now, they didn't do that just to look at the talent. They did that to look at Ohio State's program. How does it work? What role does that guy have? What do they do with this over here? How does this group work together over there? It was meant to be instructional for Garrett and staff. So Jason Garrett and staff already learned from Urban Meyer, and relationships went from there and built from there. A Meyer kid named Ezekiel Elliott landed here. I mentioned Dan Mullen and Dak Prescott on the radio. Dan Mullen is a protege of Urban Meyer, and he's obviously the mentor to Dak Prescott. That's a thread. It's an important thread. You combine the connections with his absence from the game, and you see the logic. If you want to go get Bill Belichick, there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and it's highly unlikely. If you want to go get Sean Payton, you'd have to trade for him. You have to give up capital for him. It's complicated. You want to go get Lincoln Riley, you might have to buy him out. I don't know. You want to go get Nick Saban, hoops. But in addition to that, those guys who are already employed as coaches would want to bring with them their staff. So while Jerry and Stephen would be saying, we really want you to keep that Mark Colombo, Nick Saban's going to say, with all due respect to Mark, he's going to say, Mark who? I got an offensive line coach. I'm not keeping your offensive line coach. I got my offensive line coach that's been with me for 10 years or whatever. But the Joneses will want to say that. Sure like you to keep this. Sure like you to keep that. Kellen Moore maybe would be the number one guy on that list. In the case of Urban Meyer, he doesn't have a staff to bring with him. He works for Fox. He doesn't work for Ohio State. He doesn't have 20 guys in his staff. So he would be more amenable than almost anybody to say yes to Stephen and Jerry. Oh, you want Kellen Moore? That works for me. Well, we can have Kellen Moore here. You want Mark Colombo here? We can make that work. Chris Richard, let's talk to Coach Richard. Those kind of things work when a guy doesn't have a built-in staff. Now, again, some guys would come here. Sean Payton someday is going to coach here. And when he does, not only is he going to change the coaching staff to what he wants it to be, he's going to change the janitors and the security guards at the Star. And I'm exaggerating only a little bit. He will be in control of as much as he can control. That's someday. I don't think that's this day. Urban Meyer doesn't need to control all that. He'll control the football program. That should be enough for him. And he'll control the coaching staff that meshes with what the Joneses want him to do. To work on the big stage and work with the Joneses, this is my argument. I know not everybody feels this way, including my friend Troy Aikman. And Aikman and I have had this conversation most recently just a couple days ago. I still think the Cowboys as an organization and the Joneses bring enough positives to offset the challenges. And ultimately, if you're Urban Meyer and you want to take the next step, you did Utah and you won. You did Florida and you won. You did Ohio State and you won. You want to do the NFL and win? Do it on the big stage. And there's plenty of credit to go around. And on the big stage, you don't have to be the star actor. Let Jerry be the star actor. What if you're the director? Can that be good enough? And item number 4. Urban Meyer is the anti-RKG. Garrett himself denounced the death of the RKG the other day when he recently spewed nonsense about the Cowboys. We're going to start playing the right guys and the right kind of guys and the guys that deserve. Coach, what have you been doing for 14 weeks? You've been playing the wrong guys? It's a revelation that RKG is baloney. And I wonder if Cowboy Nation and the Joneses aren't ready to go away from RKG a little bit and go to RKD, what Michael Irvin might call a right kind of dog. Maybe you need some dog. Guys, I understand. There's still a big part of us that says, I just wish they would still do it the way Tom Landry did it. And we fail to realize that Tom Landry's Cowboys, they did some dirty things too. They did some dirty deeds too on the way to their great success. That Jimmy Johnson's teams did the same thing. Pete Carroll's teams do it now. They do it in Kansas City. Belichick does it in New England, where Belichick pretends to sends a film crew to advance scout a game. And then when he gets caught, pretends it was just the kids from .com. And he doesn't know anything about it. It's outrageous, and it's dirty, and they win. Are you ready to win outrageously dirty? When we talk about what Pete Carroll does, when we talk about what Bill Belichick does, when I talk about what Urban Meyer could do here as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, it almost sounds like I'm describing an Urban Meyer-led return to a Jimmy Johnson-like approach to building the team of the 90s. And if it almost sounds like that I'm advocating that or predicting that, I guess it's because I am. Fish out.